Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today, sitting down for yet another Xbox news update. As expected, there's just been so much Xbox news to talk about that here we are again. Now, today's news update, I'll be honest, isn't as spicy as yesterday's, where I thought that was really exciting with a new studio purchase, if you will, through Activision Blizzard that will eventually become a Microsoft studio. And then, of course, we have Xbox's response to the Bethesda controversy that was surfaced through the Kotaku article. Today, there's still some exciting stuff to get into, just maybe not as spicy, because we're going to be talking about brand new Redfall gameplay. Yes, already just a couple of weeks out of the showcase, and we're getting another trailer for Redfall. It's called Welcome to Redfall. It shows off some new locations, skill trees, loot. We're going to talk about that, how I'm feeling about the game, and what this means if we're already getting a second look at things so soon for possibly a release date. Also, for those of you who are feeling a little bit upset about what's going on with Mega Man and the Xbox platform, where we pretty much have all the legacy collections, we don't have Battle Network, you may have a hankering for a Mega Man game. I know certainly I do, so I'm going back to play 0, 2, and then maybe X8 for like the millionth time. However, there is a Mega Man successor on the way to Xbox, and its first game is available right now. On top of that, Xbox Game Pass continues to evolve. As we talked about prior to the Xbox Bethesda showcase, I think Xbox is changing gaming. For better or for worse, we shall see, but they are bringing Game Pass to smart TVs, and now we're going to see what that's all about starting today as it's beginning to roll out. We'll talk about what this means for the future of the service, and hopefully, I don't have a Samsung TV, but hopefully we can test this out. And last but certainly not least, a surprise addition to Xbox Game Pass, perhaps a game you could play on that lovely Samsung Smart TV. So, welcome one, welcome all. If you're new here, you know what to do. I've said it a million times. If you're just sitting on the fence, subscribe, come on over. And with that, let's start off by talking about Redfall. As I said, brand new gameplay trailer dropped, gives us a closer look at character progression, albeit a very brief look. You do see a skill tree, if you will, multiple skill trees. The skill that we get a look at is the short range hoarding skill, which is a level 1 requirement. What I like to see here was the amount of trees that were there. One thing that Harvey Smith said in an interview with IGN when it came to Redfall was that if we were playing the same character, there were enough skill trees, was that there's enough skills there where we could play the same character and there'd be multiple versions of it. My best comparison would be Borderlands 2, I think of. Borderlands 2, I think, is one of the peaks of skill trees, where you had 4 characters at launch, and each of them had these 3 skill trees. And the way you could mix and match these skill trees or go all in on a certain build, and how it changed how you play the game, what weapons you have equipped, what skills you're using, was what made that game so infinitely replayable, especially for its time. It was incredible. So I'm hoping that looking at Arcane's pedigree with things like Dishonored 2, where they had 2 playable protagonists with multiple skill trees, chaotic, not chaotic, and what you could do with that, that they're just taking that mindset and evolving it here to now 4 characters with multiple skill sets. Easier said than done, but I feel like, again, Arcane has the pedigree with replayability that this is something they could do, because that's what Dishonored was really built off of, was the chaotic and non-chaotic routes, and that was what we saw in Dishonored 1. 2 introduced an extra protagonist, plus more skill trees, so I think that diversity of gameplay is one of their strengths. I do have confidence in that. I think Arcane very rarely misses. For me, Deathloop was a surprising disappointment. I still feel that way. I've tried to go back to the game. I just can't get on board with it. I wish I loved it, because I have been an Arcane stan since the first Dishonored. I know many of you date back to like Arx Fatalis. I have yet to play that, but for me, Arcane is one of the gems of the modern console generation, making wonderful stealth-based first-person sims. So a question you may be asking is, with a new look at the game, how am I feeling about it now? And the reason some may be asking this is, for those who don't know, when I did my Xbox Bethesda Showcase recap, I wasn't glowing about this game. I am trusting Arcane, so I wouldn't use the word concern, because they don't really have concern earned yet, because what I'm seeing doesn't look troublesome. It just doesn't look like the type of Arcane game I love from them. What I'm seeing is fun co-op open world stuff, but what comes with that seems to be possibly a stripping of the elements that I feel have defined Arcane. And part of the reason I believe they're doing this is their games have historically struggled to sell. And now, looking at Game Pass, you just want player count above player count above player count. And that's something that means a lot to Xbox. Clearly, it's going to mean a lot to Arcane because they've struggled to sell stuff. So at least if they could get a high player count, that'd be something to hang their hat on. Although I think they should be proud of all the work they've done, because even Deathloop, there's a lot of phenomenal elements in that game. So it just, to me, feels like it's a response to a lot of years of games not doing well. And so they're trying to water things down, simplify things to get a bigger audience in, and maybe it'll work. I think by default, with it being Game Pass day one, with it being a big Xbox exclusive, there's going to be a lot of people just checking out this game because it's going to be a finally moment when it arrives. My assumption, alongside I imagine many of you, is the smart call internally for Xbox would be to launch this game first before anything else, because right now I think it's struggling the most to get some type of attention publicly. There is still talk about it. Here we are talking about it in the front of an Xbox news video. It is important, but is it like Starfield level? Is it Forza Motorsport level? Probably not. I think it's one that they got to put in front of the pack so that it can kind of be the kickstart to a new generation. I'm just hoping it's great. What we saw here in this trailer, in some instances, looked a little more spooky, which I was about. I think one thing that is very underrated inside Arcane games is atmosphere, and to see like blood on the walls, like more detailed blood on the walls, kind of abandoned caves. I can see this being really nice. One thing that I just can't shake off, though, is some of the co-op details where they confirmed, and we talked about this in a separate video, they had confirmed that you couldn't take your story progression back into your own save file, so you're literally tied to the host, but you could take back your skills and loot progression. I'm not in love with that at all. That's like old school co-op mentality, and that can very much kill a co-op game, and this is a very co-op driven game, so I think this will long-term hurt the game. So we'll see as we get closer to it how we're feeling about it. Right now, my reserved stance on Redfall is I need to lay my hands on it to really see if I'm going to change my opinion, because right now I'm just not feeling in love with what I'm seeing. I'm not feeling super confident about it, but it is a situation where I know Arcane, I know their talent, I love their games, I've replayed a ton of their games, so I could see this being a situation where easily I could be incorrect, if you would like to use that word. But for me, it's just I'm very skeptical about things, but I'm happy to be wrong if that ends up being the case, and I'm rooting for them. I want this to be a slam dunk and to kind of be the catch-all where it's generic enough, if you will, to catch a mainstream audience, but also has the first-person immersive sim elements that didn't have to be sacrificed to get people in the door. So hopefully we can get a best of both worlds scenario here. It does look fun with the interactive co-op powers, but other than that, not much else to say on Redfall, but cool that we're getting a second look at, and I think that to me indicates more than likely this is something that will be coming out first, maybe to start off the year. We'll see in due time. Let's move on to our next bit of news here, which has to do with Xbox Game Pass. Today is indeed the day. There is a Samsung gaming hub that is live right now. It's going out to a selection of Samsung TVs in the 2022 range, so they have to be newer televisions. But what this means is that you can play Xbox Game Pass with just a controller. You do not need a console. And here's what Phil Spencer had to say to Windows Central. We're on a quest to bring the joy and community of gaming to everyone on the planet, and bringing the Xbox app to smart TVs is another step in making our vision a reality. That's why we're excited to partner with Samsung, a global leader in TVs, on bringing Xbox to more players. Working with Samsung has helped us provide more access to gaming and enabled us to welcome new players into our thriving community. I've talked about this before. Again, I think this is changing gaming. A lot of people think that's hyperbolic to say such a thing because it usually insinuates it's a very, very, very positive thing. Like, they're changing gaming, dude. They're changing the game, literally. But I don't mean that as always a positive thing. I look at, this will sound a little off topic at first, but just hear me out. I do look at kind of what happened with Obi-Wan, where Obi-Wan was supposed to be a movie, but was then turned into Disney Plus 6-episode TV show. And I feel like that sparks the conversation as someone who's a huge prequel fan of, has the subscription service grown so much that it's beginning to cannibalize the quality of certain pieces of content to make more stretched out, episodic pieces of content that will retain subscribers? It makes sense for the business, but does it make sense for the quality of the product? And while Game Pass, I think, has a long way to go, and games are made far differently than movies and television shows, I do have to pose the question of, will Game Pass grow enough as it expands to now TVs where you don't need a console, where it can start to impact the development cycle. I know Matt Booty has on multiple accounts gone on record of saying we're not trying to change how games are made, but that is a load of malarkey if I've ever heard one in my entire life, because it happens with every single subscription service. Why would Game Pass be exempt from that? And that's what I do worry about. As Game Pass grows, and I love Game Pass, as someone who's a physical game collector, I'm still a huge proponent of Game Pass, because for those who don't know, it's about the accessibility to games. Like growing up, literally had no money. I would have killed to have something like Game Pass as a kid, as a teenager, as a young adult. Again, no money. This would have been incredible. So I'm a huge proponent of Game Pass for that reason. I'm also a huge proponent of just making the review cycle as irrelevant as possible so you can play the game, lay your hands on it, and come up with your own decision. And day one Game Pass allows more of that. It evolves the conversation. So I'm a huge proponent of this service, but I do worry at times about some of the cons that come with it growing. And one of the things that we're already seeing with NFTs, microtransactions, this metaverse, all this BS, of course, the digitization of games where they're not remaining on store shelves for as long, and even DRM checks, which are starting to make it where when you buy a game, it's not even truly yours. It's becoming very different. And Game Pass being this all digital platform, ownership of games is going to start to fade. It's going to grow and it's going to be exciting, but it's going to come with some pullbacks, I think. And that's where some of my worries do lie. And I don't mean to be a negative Nancy in what is a very exciting time, right? Like the idea that to play a high quality console game, you don't even need hardware, you need good internet, should be celebrated. And I am celebrating it. But I also have to keep it real that this is a significant change for gaming, and it's not going to stop at Samsung Smart TVs. They're going to team up with other television brands. Maybe Switch, I would imagine, would be the next gaming platform. Steam Deck would make a lot of sense for a native type of Game Pass where you could download games through there. That would be incredible. I imagine Xbox wants to make their own handheld device, and we've heard that the Series S is the beginning of that. I would lose my mind over that. Of course, I think the final step for many of us is thinking about PlayStation, getting it over on PlayStation. And with PlayStation establishing PS Plus, maybe getting their service. That would break all the walls down and I think make gaming a better place, because I'm so tired. Like, you just have those weeks, and this is one of those weeks I'm so tired of seeing the same regurgitated fanboy BS. And I get more tired of it quickly because I'm in the thick of it more. I'm seeing it more often, where when I wasn't always doing Xbox coverage, you know, a lot of people were not really bringing this type of stuff to me. But now, because I'm at the center of Xbox coverage and I'm probably the biggest Xbox channel out there, I see a lot of it just thrown my way. It's just like, oh my Lord, enough. So yeah, with that, I think that breaking the walls down could be great, but that's a long ways away. I think many of us would expect it to be. But we know Xbox is not going to stop here. And that is part of the exciting future, is making gaming this one big ecosystem and breaking down the walls of what is possible. And Xbox could be shepherding that, which is good for gaming. So we'll see what happens. But for now, let's get into our next bit of news, which is that the Inti Create series Azure Striker Gunvolt is coming to Xbox. The first game is out today. It's $15, and Azure Gunvolt 2 will follow up on July 14th for $20. The third game is going to be available on Xbox August 2nd. That has yet to release, so this is a brand new game. But this is a 2D action platforming series that has some of the creatives behind Mega Man Zero and Mega Man ZX, as well as Keiji Inafune, the artist of the Mega Man series, as a producer. So this is extremely exciting, and I thought that this was something worth bringing to all of your attention, because I read the comments. I know y'all know how much I love Mega Man. As you can see right here, the helmet, the shadow box, the X figure. Like, I love my Mega Man. I know many of you out there do as well. Many of you who only own an Xbox are very upset that for some reason Battle Network isn't coming to Xbox. It's coming to PC, it's coming to Switch, it's coming to PlayStation. I don't know why, but it's not coming to Xbox. It makes this whole JRPG situation for Xbox all the more spotty. As I had said when they announced their commitment with Wolong, with Persona, with Hideo Kojima, I was like, maybe I'm just scarred, but I still can't fully buy in, and this is a reason why. Anyway, for those of you who are feeling a little bit burned, not only do you have those Mega Man Legacy collections that are already available, but now you have Azure Striker Gunvolt, which I've heard excellent things about. A lot of people, when I did my first playthrough of Mega Man Zero and talked about it over on Retro Rebound, said you should definitely check this one out. So I have yet to play them, but at 15 bucks, that's a pretty easy pickup in my opinion. I think this is awesome to see it coming to Xbox. It is another sign that despite some of the spotty JRPG support, some teams are starting to find value in bringing their games over. It is one of those moments where it's like, it's a little late with 1 and 2. However, with Azure Striker 3, I think that's exciting because that's coming day and date to Xbox, right? It's going to be there available to everyone alongside PlayStation, alongside Switch. And that's what we want, right? It's sad to say, it's kind of embarrassing for Xbox that that's the bare minimum we're asking is, hey, can you make this game just like available? And I know sometimes it comes down to these publishers finding value in creating ports for Xbox, and we don't know if Xbox has to pop open the wallet each time a port comes around and they have to decide if it's worth it. And if that is the case, then my God, did they misread the Battle Network situation? Because above all the legacy collections, the amount of hype I'm seeing for this one, it's so nice to see it in the public mind again. So maybe that was a misread on Xbox's part. We'll see. But I just want to make all of you aware of this Mega Man successor if you're like me and you're a huge fan. Last bit of news, tiny one here. Surprise addition to Game Pass. We thought we were covered up until July and we'd get more news on what was coming in the middle of July. But now we have learned that a small game here, but hear me out, a satisfying one, has arrived in the name of House Flipper. Now, for those of you who are like me and you've played some of these simulator games, I know what it looks like on the outside. You look at this and you go, Matty, really, you must be desperate for content. You're talking about this game in this video. It's a small Game Pass edition. But hear me out. There is something very satisfying about doing real life chores in video games. Or the way some of these simulator games play is actually really fun. I played Thief Simulator for like 20 hours. And you could play way more than that if you wanted. But like for me, it scratched a particular itch. And I remember playing it and just the feeling of, I swear to God, I'm probably a kleptomaniac, but you know, I love Dishonored because like you can like climb inside houses and you can like steal all their stuff. I love the Thief games. I just love thievery in video games clearly. And Thief Simulator was that. But there's also games like House Flipper where you start to see the window get clean. And you're like, oh, that looks really satisfying. And it just seems like a really nice, entertaining game. Is it going to blow your socks off? It actually might. It's kind of fun. It's pretty satisfying to play. And I just wanted to put it on your radar. I thought with today's, if you will, slower news update, it was an opportunity to take two game series that maybe you haven't heard of and give them a look with Azure Striker Gunvolt as well as House Flipper. And one of them being available on Game Pass right now. Again, this is one of those bro, trust me moments. Bro, trust me. House Flipper. It's not that bad. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to another Xbox news update. What do you think about everything we discussed in today's video? Fire away. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. And a big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the hell out of the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.